it is a truism around the world, in every country, that the future of the world economy depends above all on technological progress as we go from, for example, fossil fuels to electric automobiles, as we go from one kind of transportation to another, from one kind of medical care to a more advanced, more capable medical care. We need trained, educated people. That will determine the future of the American economy much more than where the location of our next factory is, whether it's in Mexico or the United States. It is silly to be focused, for example, on moving factories, a difficult, risky, long-term project, while we get rid of our educational institutions. And make no mistake, what you're watching on the federal level is similar to what is happening in many of the states of the United States. The White House, when celebrating the Supreme Court's decision, said it wants to give the power of education to the states. Yeah, but the states don't have the resources the federal government does. The states are focused, logically, on the state. But the state's objectives are different from that of the federal government. That's why we have a federal government. That's why every other country has. And while I'm talking about other countries, let me drive home the point, not that it should be needed, but in the People's Republic of China, they are spending more each year on education, not less. They are building schools and building colleges left and right. You know, until a few decades ago, basically until World War II, we had a level of higher education that was split between public and private. Private were most of the colleges and universities. Public were what we called land-grant institutions. They were colleges and universities basically to set up to help farmers, to help the rural agricultural people with important training of farmers and helping farmers understand fertilizer and chemistry and all the rest of it. Only after World War II did the American working class make a fundamental demand on this society. We want our kids to get college educations also. And you know who they turned to do that? The federal government. It stepped in to help finance all the state universities, but it was a federal and state partnership, as it has remained ever since. Today, three quarters of our college students go to a public governmental institution. If you pull away the federal government's role, you leave it to the states, they're not going to be able to sustain it, and it means you're diminishing your commitment to education. Why in the world? What crazy logic would make you do that at this juncture in this country's history? It's because you don't want to spend the money. You already don't tax the super rich the way you once did. You do not tax corporations anything like what we did as recently as 30 and 40 years ago. You've given them the biggest tax breaks they ever got. So boasts Mr. Trump. So why, if you're not willing to tax them, do you add insult to the injury for the mass of people by destroying it and putting in charge of the education department a woman who's rich on the basis of wrestling? That's saying you don't care. You don't mind what happens. You don't want any agency of the government to be committed to adjusting and developing and improving education. It's not going to happen by itself, and it's not going to happen if you insult the entire educational community, teachers, students, parents, by this disrespectful slashing of a budget.